So the global markets or the global companies in lifestyle have recognized that this culture now is translatable, across countries. So they themselves, companies like Adidas and high-end um, merchandising, recording companies, the companies that make microphones, headphones, etc., have now created products branded by the Rastafari community. So, the World Intellectual Property Organization, in addressing not just these rights, but the rights of, I would say, the green economy, because the world is moving towards the use of indigenous knowledge in reaction to the destruction that is happening on the planet, etc. So the younger generation and the younger consumers are now more mindful of wanting to do the right thing in protection of future generations. And so they want these types of products and services. So the World Intellectual Property Organization, that is a function of the United Nations, has started to create new laws to protect indigenous rights and indigenous knowledge and traditions, as they see that it's being so commercialized in popular culture. So the Rastafari community since 2007 has been applying itself under these new frameworks, and is now in negotiation with the government of Jamaica to institute the Rastafari Intellectual Property Act to protect the culture futuristically, and also to put the community in a negotiating position for benefit sharing of past use, meaning it's not really misappropriation, because you see, if you didn't have a fence and somebody come in and take something, they didn't really do anything illegal because you didn't have a fence. They don't come in, they don't take it, right? However, you do have a moral right, because your culture, what the world recognizes, that you weren't about those rights. You were about defending the right to return to Africa, and return home. And in defending those rights, you created this culture. So the culture wasn't your priority. Your rights to go home is your priority. However, that culture and that influence has become so immense that it's now forcing you within your right to know to protect that. Because if we look at the other day, we had Red Stripe saying that they're going to open up now in the African market using reggae music, right? Meaning as a brand, as a means of promoting their brand. That becomes, why you have to become now specific. Because even where it was international companies using the culture, we now find now that the Jamaican companies here, whether it's digital, Jamaican National, etc., will be also now seeking to use this brand development over the years and influence to market these products. So if the Rastafari community does not put together its rights properly with the partnership of the Jamaican government, right, then it's going to be like chaos, right, for the community, and we're going to lose out again, right, on our economic base. And our economic reality is very, very, very bad. We're kind of enduring an assault now because our elders are transitioning very quickly, almost, because there's no welfare or sustaining. So it's a very burdensome liberty to be going through right now that we are forced to really get this thing going. So for us, we have been negotiating for quite a while related to these intellectual property rights with JIPO and WIPO. We have a problem that has developed within the last year where our legal representative or person who was agitating with us actually went and is now working for JIPO. That has created a kind of conflict of interest, right? And because we have not been able to support a new legal representative, we have been in kind of a limbo. And so we saw the ganja legalization actually as a catalyst now to force the government of Jamaica to focus in, even though we don't have an active legal representative, our information and our position relating to brand and, as you said, intellectual property is so necessary for the development of any local Jamaican ganja industry that we feel that there should be a common, rather than advocating and pushing for it, it should now be one of the inputs in the framework that will now drive that, like the minister said, the ganja law would be one of the first laws that would have acknowledged the Rastafari community rights. Our position is that those rights can only be engaged if there is an intellectual property act. Other countries that have indigenous groups like Bolivia, Peru, etc., they are not waiting for the international laws that is being negotiated at the UN level. They're actually moving forward and creating their own national indigenous rights, using those frameworks to move forward these protections. Because if the Rastafari Intellectual Property Act, for example, is put forward in Jamaica as law, the commercial benefit to Jamaica will be huge, because so much of brand Jamaica is not, you can't get it back. But with Rastafari, because you're under this indigenous rights and this new way of consumers wanting to do the right thing for the next generation, it will get more traction. So actually, my position is that the Rastafari Intellectual Property Act is the most important action to take in regards of the sacramental rights, because then that act will allow for government-to-government negotiations, because that is what is going to happen to reclaim back benefit sharing with a lot of these companies. We've talked to international lawyers, and they said to us that it's only with partnership with the government of Jamaica to go to companies like Adidas, etc., bring that weight of a national government with your actual rights, that will force those companies to come and benefit share, because those companies are sensitive to consumers. So if consumers start to feel that this company is ripping off, then they do the right thing. So that also too is that this Intellectual Property Act would bring a lot of foreign exchange and currency into Jamaica. It flows through the Rastafari community. I mean, we have our representative here from our Rastafari Trust Fund that was developed specifically for this reality, because the WIPO, World Intellectual Property Organization, told us that the only way that we can get this type of benefit sharing proposition is to have a trust fund that is related to a collective ownership, because it cannot be done on an individual basis. So I'm having the minister know to, we've been asking for an audience with Minister Hilton and Minister Paulwell in order to we don't have is an economy. Because if we had an economy, we would have hired lawyers already to represent what we know and what we have shaped and advocated for. But based on the dynamics, we don't have that. And we need that. And the ganja industry needs that, because if it doesn't get that framework from the Rastafari community, it's going to hold up the regulatory law, because regulatory process. Because it's not so much about, as you know, our community is very vegetarian, etc. So it's not like, oh, well, all the mansions are going to come together and agree. It's way beyond that. Yeah. You understand what I'm saying? It resides now in an overstanding of the intellectual property rights, having it enshrined in law that it will even assist our community members and our economic development and our edification about moving forward. Our communities are international, like I said, just like our Red Stripe can go to Africa based on our influence, Jamaican nationalism, Ghana, all of, Grace Kennedy, etc. So that law would then signal to our companies here that, and not just the law, even the intellectual property authority, of how we can be partnering with them in our long-term vision of repatriation to Africa. Because we understood from the early 60s mission to Africa that it's on trade and commerce that we can build our bridges going forward, right? And so now that the world is turning towards South-South trade, direct flights from Africa into the Caribbean and all of these processes, we as a community do not want to be left behind as some kind of relic or, type of adjective or museum. We want to be active in this. So we think that and we also think that the ganja is not just any plant. I'm often quoted to be saying that the sugar cane brought us here, and the ganja could take us home, right? Yeah, if we really look at what is happening, because even when we are now studying what is happening with ganja in Africa, it is very, very interesting, because it is the Rastafarian African, right, that is at the lead of the development of the ganja industry in Africa. Right. You understand? When you look in the Swaziland, South Africa, etc., the persons who are at the forefront of the negotiations is Rastafarian. So if we develop and this is why this space is very important, but this space as an indigenous collective village, the way that we shape it and address it, it will become like our Starbucks, McDonald's franchise globally, because all of our, it's almost like you have an instant economic base and reality, you know what I mean? And you have people internationally to buy into and support your products. I speak one more about the intellectual property, for example, Mali coffee, right? Mali coffee started with an idea out in Portland with the Blue Mountain coffee, and they set up something using the brand Mali coffee, etc. They got some investors, start to promote it. Now Mali coffee is using, I think, 10 or 15% of local product, and the rest of the product, the coffee, under the brand is being acquired abroad, right? And so this is why this brand development is so important for us here, because we can't afford for people to come into Jamaica, associate with the brand, with the ganja, then go to Colorado, register a company with that name, right? And start using Colorado ganja underneath that brand to satisfy whatever. This is what is actually happening, right? So we have to be literally now negotiating to, even within our ganja association, the development of Jamaican ganja companies in places like Colorado and all of these, Amsterdam, etc., that you literally have to be looking to set up your company in those places. You understand what I'm saying? This is how far you have to be moving. So while we're considerate about growing the ganja, the ownership of the brand, and how, because if anybody's going to be in the business of using Colorado ganja as Jamaican brand, we must own it. You understand? We can't say because Jamaica only can do a certain amount of tonnage and acres, right? But we have a demand far greater than what we can actually produce. And so this is what the Rastafari community, knowing what is about to happen in Africa, you understand what I'm saying, wants to be in the proper position to harness this in the best way, you know. So we are appealing to the Minister of Justice that coming from this meeting, that we, yes, we want to be positioned licensed growers, etc., but the ownership and the management and the strategic deployment of companies, etc., in Africa, especially, right, because the Jamaican companies, we could not allow these companies to go ahead of us. You understand what I'm saying? To use our cultural influence, and we can't use it. And the only way we can use it is to get our intellectual property rights governed in Jamaica, right? Because our international community, when they go to the courts in defense of themselves, they look towards what is the Rastafari community in Jamaica, how is it being addressed legally, and those inputs matter to what they do, or how the courts decide certain cases internationally.
But the mapping of the process into what's the workshop going?
Oh well, based on the same international recognition of the indigenous rights of peoples, because reality you have maybe 5-7 billion people in the world. Most of them are urbanized, like what we have here in Jamaica, where the majority of our people are on the gully banks. You understand what I'm saying? Yeah, right? And the land is not being worked, so the food security for the nations are at zero. You know what I mean? Because the people are not on the land, they're on the gully banks of the spaces, urbanized. So what the international world has found now, going forward, is that the knowledge and information of maybe 200 to 300 million people is going to be so depended on by how much billion people, for example, in the pharmaceutical industry especially, right? That they have to put protections now, like say guinea hen weed, they find that it does wonders for cancer. The knowledge base about the guinea hen weed is created by the indigenous peoples, associating with, for example, the cactus plant, how they use it, etc. So they're saying that it could come a time that you can't get the guinea hen weed again, because it's part of your culture, you know. But based on how those 7 billion or 5 billion people want it, you can't even get it to suffice you. So they have to now put in protections for the people who are associated with this indigenous knowledge. To protect them from the commerce that is coming, because you can't stop the commerce from coming, because if the commerce is held, like Ebola or whatever it is, they're going to want anything that cures. Right? So, but you also want to make sure, like the Indians in the Americas, when they lost the buffalo, they lost their culture. A major aspect of the culture because the culture was intertwined with the buffalo. So when they killed out the buffalo, you understand? So you knowing what sustains your culture, outside of the commercialization, you have to have the protection to make sure that you, even within, for example, the ganja industry in Jamaica, the Rastafari community could find itself can't even get ganja. You understand what I'm saying? If it doesn't certain frameworks, or you have to buy something from of how they, of not only how, but how they seek to grow it. Because if the ganja for the Rasta is not just always as a ganja plant out there growing. There's specific ways how it's grown, there's specific ways how it's related to, etc. That informs, right? And so you want those protections, you know what I mean? So this is why we think it's important, one of the most important things out of this reasoning is for the minister to understand that our intellectual property rights are central to our sacramental rights, right? Because it's not just about smoking it around here. It's what it is, how it was grown, you know what I mean, and how it is being applied, etc. Because right now we have e-cigarettes coming into Jamaica that give you a ganja taste, yes, flavor, right? And those are the, you have again, for example, the hemp products that are coming into the, again, through the customs. Through the customs. But not only that is coming through the customs, but these are the things that we have been doing and creating our products. So if the industry is opened up, then we won't be able to sell or create anything because all of these products will already be here. And so we need to understand also globalization. Because if Jamaica and all the countries, not just Jamaica, are now have to open their markets to these products. Like you have to open them. Right. So then that